Eric.
Tyler.
Back at it. Like a crack addict. We already did that joke in another video. I forget
Pretty
which one.
sure we've done that like 3 times.
I think we did it once, but that's alright. I love crack, so it's okay.
Do you?
When it comes to crack, I love it. The hat's definitely, you're starting to tell it's lower now. Alright.
I hope so.
I know, but it felt like it was bottomless. Now it's not bottomless. Alright. Jean-Paul Sartre. Existentialist philosophy. Who? Jean-Paul Sartre.
Who?
Based or cringe. Here we go.
Oh boy.
Let's get our internet devices open here.
Well, let me get the coin flip open.
Yeah, I forgot that was a thing.
Yep. Wait, no. I thought we were going to do based or cringe different now.
Yeah, well, we said we were going to like sort of
go through their beliefs and then kind of like go like based or cringe in each one. Okay.
Yeah, or just, overall.
Yeah, we're going to read the same.
We're too similar. We got to force it if we choose a side, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you misspelled it too. On the slip. Where'd the slip go? I think you misspelled it.
That was not my handwriting.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't?
Yes, it was.
Find it. Find it on camera.
Find it right here. That's...
What explicit results filtered with safe search?
This is your handwriting. This is not mine.
Let me see it. No, that's not mine.
Yes, it is.
I promise you that's yours.
Dude. No. All right, hand me this.
I promise you.
All right. So here's that.
I promise.
And there's that. This is mine. This is Tyler's. I'm telling you, this is Tyler's handwriting, not mine.
That's not how I make any of those letters.
I don't know what you're talking about. Write it again. Write it again right now.
Well, I need a pen.
It's not my problem.
Yeah, this isn't me.
Are you sure?
First of all, half of these that you do alternate between capital and lowercase letters arbitrarily.
I'm just trying to blame you for spelling it wrong.
We were drunk when we wrote these, I think. Anyway.
No, that's just how I write.
Yeah. But I don't make A's like this either. Your A looks like an H. Looks like you made an H and put a line in it. That's fine. My capital E's look like...
We're going to do a handwriting video.
Yeah. Anyway, Jean-Paul Sartre. Foundational writer in existential philosophy. This is what I'm aware of.
Wait.
I own one book by him, Being in Nothingness, but I've not read it yet. So we're pretty much on the same footing here.
Okay. Yo, but I think there's a play I want to see. The Respectful Prostitute.
I just remember the character, the robot called Sartre in fucking Nier Automata, bro.
Oh. So what?
He was one of the key figures in the philosophy of existentialism.
No, I was gonna say what pages are we going through?
I have Wikipedia open if we wanted.
Well, did you want to go through the? Excuse me, Jesus, the Stanford EDU page too.
Yeah, or like what's the? Well, we can go. Well, maybe you go through that and I'll go through this. There's some back and forth because sometimes it's interesting to get the the autobiographical. I almost said biological. The autobiographical info. You know what I mean?
So he wrote an autobiography?
No, it's sometimes interesting to know some autobiographical information about the philosopher, right?
Okay, but why are you saying autobiographical?
Biographical information.
Thank you.
I was almost right. I said Oh, it doesn't matter. Who gives a fuck? I can't speak. So, it's interesting to get some of the biographical information about them, right?
Yeah.
Which Wikipedia leans towards having that, as opposed to some of the philosophy sites and shit, which focus on the philosophy. But when you want to really get into the philosophy, those are nice, but also sometimes they're a little bit dense, like they're for students.
Right.
And we don't have student time. We don't have 2 weeks to go over all of Sartre's. We're trying to condense it in an hour, roughly, So, but if that's what you want to look through, but the conflict between oppressive, spiritually destructive conformity and an authentic way of being became the dominant theme in Sartre's early work, a theme embodies in his principal philosophical work, Being in Nothingness, which I own but I have not read yet. Sartre's introduction to his philosophy in his work Existentialism is a Humanism was introduction to his philosophy is Existentialism is a Humanism. It was originally a lecture, but he made it a book, I guess. Lived from 1905 to 1980. Oh, also interestingly, at the top here, he was awarded the 1964 Nobel Prize in Literature despite attempting to refuse it, saying that he always declined official honors and that a writer should not allow himself to be turned into an institution. Which is as long as you maintain a truth to your beliefs, regardless of what the fuck they are. I can respect turning down the Nobel Prize because you're not about that life and shit. You know what I'm saying?
They gave Obama a peace prize, so
that's a joke anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that he was or wasn't.
I think the entire institution of the Nobel, of like the entire Nobel institution, is like
Alfred Nobel based for Cringe.
He himself was pretty based, but like what his institution is like devolved into is Cringe.
So this first paragraph, from what is a good like overview, generally of some of like the foundational ideas of his philosophy, and then like existentialism as a whole, which sort of sprung out of it. So do you know anything about existentialism?
No.
So it's basically,
I mean, I have an existential crisis about every other morning, but
yeah, like as a philosophy, it's just it's a reaction to, it's like, so you have nihilism, right?
Yeah.
And if you accept nihilism is true, but you don't want to kill yourself or whatever, you sort of have to like, all right, so like let's figure that, like, what are we gonna do now? Like the world is meaningless, then what? Kind of, you know what I mean?
Make your own meaning.
Well, sure. That's like that's what absurdism is about. But generally, that's what these different existential writers all look at it in their own way or whatever, right? So Sartre's primary idea is that people as humans are condemned to be free. The theory relies on his position that there's no creator and is illustrated using the example of the paper cutter. Sartre says that if one considered a paper cutter, one would assume that the creator would have had a plan for it. An essence. Sartre said that human beings have no essence before their existence because there's no creator. Thus, quote, existence precedes essence. This forms the basis for his assertion that because one cannot explain one's own actions and behavior by referring to any specific human nature, they are necessarily fully responsible for those actions. We are left alone without excuse, in quotes. Also in quotes, we can act without being determined by our past, which is always separated from us. So definitely not a determinist. Definitely like...
I don't know what that means.
Determinists are like the people that...
Stop throwing all these buzzwords at me.
They're not buzzwords.
Speak like a human.
All determinism means is just, the people, like the no free will people.
Oh.
Like free will doesn't exist. Like you're it's like that Mickey and Donald meme or whatever. You are nothing but, you know the one I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Where nothing but the product of chemicals or whatever the fuck.
Right.
Yeah, like determinists, people who are like scientifically determinists think that free will is like an illusion. Like you really don't have any conscious like choice over what you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, and a lot of them use the argument, I mean, they're rooted in science, but they say like, at what point like does something gain the ability to determine for itself, right?
Right.
Like, do dogs make choices? If dogs make choices, you can go down to do cells make choices? Do protons make choices? You know what I mean?
Right.
They feel like we've so thoroughly figured out like the building blocks of what makes beings exist that like, and at no point does like free will enter the equation. So logistically, it doesn't make any sense that there is any. But Sartre would probably say, fuck that. He'd be like, you can act without being determined by our past, which is always separated from us. So the complete opposite viewpoint, in essence, right?
So Sartre just kind of took Descartes and he kind of ran with it a little bit.
Kind of.
I exist and I am free. So.
Yeah, I think that's obviously like a reference to the...
Right. Man, I hate all these philosophers who like take words that already exist and like redefine them to fit into their philosophy.
Yes, but also, like, are you going to use a new word? You know what I mean? Are you going to make a word up?
I guess not.
It's like, well, my favorite example...
But it just kind of gets confusing.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, in the very, like, very robust, like, translator notes of the unique in its property, right? Because the word unique is a translation of, I can't say it, like, Einzing or whatever, right? It's Einzinge, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So, that word just means, like, it means, like, essentially what the word unique means in English. But also, when Max Stirner uses it, he doesn't mean, like, the concept of something being unique. It's, like, a specific thing. So, like, is it better to capitalize it and define it and, you know, make it clear that it's really, you really can't put a name on it, but this is the best that I can do? Or is it, you like, make a word up? I mean, I see where you're coming from. It's just, like, it seems like the best solution to a problem.
Right.
Unless you start making words up, which I guess you can also do. Fuck it.
Right.
Sartre maintained that the concepts of authenticity and individuality have to be earned but not learned. We need to experience, quote, death consciousness so as to wake up ourselves as to what is really important, the authentic in our lives, which is life experience, not knowledge. Death draws the final point when we as beings cease to live for ourselves and permanently become objects that exist only for the outside world. In this way, death emphasizes the burden of our free individual existence. What's interesting about Sartre, and there's a couple other philosophers who do this too, but he wrote like philosophical works and also like novels too.
Right.
Like a few novels, I think. Which is
like using his
to some extent. Like the most famous one by Sartre is Nausea. Let me see that we're talking about it here. Which serves in some ways as a manifesto of existentialism and remains one of his most famous books. Taking a page from the German phenomenological movement. He believes that our ideas are the product of experiences of real-life situations, and that novels and plays can well describe such fundamental experiences, having equal value to discursive essays for the elaboration of philosophical theories such as existentialism. With such purpose, the novel concerns a dejected researcher in a town similar to Le Havre, which I guess is probably where he's from, which becomes starkly conscious of the fact that inanimate objects and situations remain absolutely indifferent to his existence. As such, they show themselves to be resistant to whatever significant human consciousness might perceive in them. Man, this is a quote, man chooses and makes himself by acting. Any action implies the judgment that he is right under the circumstances, not only for the actor, but also for everybody else in similar circumstances. I don't know if I have anything to add to that concept of, like...
This shit seems dense. I reread this same paragraph, like, twice, and I'm, like, confused.
Here's what you gotta do. Just read it out loud, then it sounds like you know what you're talking about. That's what I've been doing.
Oh, okay. Sartre's Ontology is explained in his philosophical masterpiece, Being and Nothingness, where he defines two types of reality which lie beyond our conscious experience: the being of the object of consciousness and that of consciousness itself. The object of consciousness exists as in itself, that is, an independent and non-relational way. However, consciousness is always consciousness of something, so it is defined in relation to something else. It is not possible to grasp it within a conscious experience. It exists for itself. An essential feature of consciousness is its negative power, by which we can experience nothingness. This power is also at work within the self, where it creates an intrinsic lack of self-identity, so the unity of the self is understood as a task for itself rather than as a given. I read it out loud and I'm supposed to sound smart, but I still don't get it. Holy fuck!
I'm starting to understand why this book... this book is
I'm surprised he was able to find that in so little time.
It's 800 pages. I just knew where it was at.
I'm surprised.
I got all my philosophy books at the bottom.
No wonder why. It make a perfect foundation.
Yeah. This is, I mean...
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, it was funny because you were talking. I just wanted to grab it, but
Yeah.
What's up, Jean-Paul?
That book can stand up by itself.
I've
That's a
not read
fucking
it.
brick, dude.
not read it, and you can see why it's 800 pages. You kind of have to prepare yourself a little bit.
That's not a Sunday afternoon read.
Yeah. No, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Oh, okay. Maybe this makes a little. Hopefully, this kind of makes it make a little bit more sense. In order to ground itself, the self needs projects, which can be viewed as aspects of an individual's fundamental project and motivated by a desire for being, lying within the individual's consciousness. So, people have a base desire to do stuff. And the desire to do stuff helps form an individual's consciousness. I think that's a fair distillation of the soup I just read. We're going to get so many angry comments from Sartre fans.
The Sartists.
Yeah. What the fuck does ontology mean?
Go ahead and read a definition of ontology.
Okay, so ontology is the branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being, or a set of concepts and categories in a subject area or domain that shows their properties and the relations between them. So, okay, so it's the difference between... Okay, so the difference between existential and ontological... Okay, ontological focuses on what we have in common. Existential focuses on our experience. Like our internal experience. Okay. Maybe,
So,
yeah, that sounds
So
okay.
a good way to simplify it for our usage would be ontology focuses on what you can extrapolate out of experience and shit, right?
Yes.
Whereas existentialism is or not existentialism is a philosophy, but like existential, as opposed to ontology, is like the subjective experience that you have.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much is the easy way to.
Yeah, this is like dense. The project of bad faith? Oh my god. What the fuck does that mean?
You don't know about bad faith, bro?
No, I want the definition of facticity. That's not...
The quality. What is it? Read it.
The quality or condition of being fact. The facticity of death. I didn't know that was a word. So, the incoherence of the dichotomy of facticity and freedom is manifested. Okay.
So, bad faith in like existential thought, like in Sartre's work and in like absurdism and shit, basically just means when like you want to do something, like instead of acting how you authentically want to, you act inauthentically because of like pressure from society or religion or whatever, and you behave a certain way due to that and not due to what you actually desire. Or your actual like wants. So it's acting in bad faith.
Oh, okay. So
Related to self-deception.
All right. Let me read this.
All right. Just you said at the beginning where are you reading from? Just so we're that
What? What's the project of bad faith?
No, I mean what?
Oh.
Sorry, you're on the Stanford.
No.
I'm gonna give credit where credit's due.
Yes. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Now I gotta go find that again. Where are we at? Oh, there we are. So, Sartre describes the precise and mannered movements of a cafe waiter. In thus behaving, the waiter is identifying himself with his role as waiter in the mode of being in itself. In other words, the waiter is discarding his real nature as for itself, i.e. as free facticity, to adopt that of the in itself. He is thus denying his transcendence as for itself in favor of the kind of transcendence characterizing the in itself. In this way, the burden of his freedom, i.e. the requirement to decide for himself what to do, is lifted from his shoulders, since his behavior is as though set in stone by the definition of the role he has adopted. The mechanism involved in such a project involves inherent contradiction. Indeed, the very identification at the heart of bad faith is only possible because the waiter is a for itself and can indeed choose to adopt such a project. So the freedom of the for itself is a precondition of the project of bad faith which denies it. I just confused myself even more.
Yeah, because I found out what you're talking about on the page for bad faith on Wikipedia, and it just says, Sartre cites a cafe waiter whose movements and conversation are a little too waiter-esque. His voice oozes with an eagerness to please. He carries food rigidly and ostentatiously. His movement is quick.
I'm like sweating.
His movement, fucking thinking. His movement is quick and forward, a little too precise, a little too rapid. His exaggerated behavior illustrates that he is play acting as a waiter, as an object in the world, an automaton whose essence is to be a waiter. But that he is obviously acting belies that he is aware that he is not merely a waiter, but is rather consciously deceiving himself. That was like a 3-sentence version, and is eminently more readable.
Sorry!
No, that's not your fault, I'm just saying.
I'm sorry your dude writes in Hegelian dialectics.
He's not my dude.
Yes, he's your dude.
I mean, I own the book. I haven't read the book.
He's your dude.
I'm not going to read all this, but another of Sartre's examples involves a young woman on a first date. She ignores the obvious sexual implication of her date's compliments to her physical appearance, but accepts them instead as words directed at her as a human consciousness.
So I got a question. You ever notice how, like, when you read stuff to yourself, you can read it perfectly, but as soon as you start trying to read something out loud, you sound like a moron? What's up with that?
I don't know. You just have to... Well, part of my problem is I read in my mind way faster than I can read out loud.
Right.
So I'm trying to, like... I have to, like, actively think about, like, just, like, reading at a human speed.
Right.
Out loud. Like, that's understandable.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So bad faith is like lying to yourself.
Yeah. It's acting inauthentically.
Gotcha.
You might have 700 pages of, like, example and drawing out, you know, explanation and examples and all this other shit, but in essence, Sartre, like other existentialists, like, sees that, has come to the conclusion that there's no true essence to being a human, there's no creator, and that, if humans act authentically and individualistically and according to their desires and shit, then I guess that's the A+. But then there's all these traps you can fall into with self-deception and caving into, you know, all this other shit, or...
Right.
letting somebody else determine your behavior is not really an authentic way to be yourself.
Right.
Sartre says that people are condemned to be free. Whether they adopt an objective moral system to do this choosing for them or follow only their pragmatic concerns, they cannot help but be aware that they're not fundamentally part of them. That's true. That's, like, you know how sometimes you'll have people who, especially, like, the Abrahamic religions, like Christians, and especially because that's who I interact with more than any others, but they talk about, like, morality, like, if there's no objective morality, then, like, why doesn't everyone just run around, like, doing whatever the
murdering,
fuck?
raping each other and shit?
Yeah, like, there has to be some objective moral law, but that belies the question, if there is, like, an objective moral law, why isn't, like, it implicitly understood? Like,
Right.
just as a person, right?
Right.
Which this kind of gets at the heart of. You can't help but be aware that these moral concerns are not fundamentally part of you. You just find one that is objectively the most similar to, like, how you think you should act or how you're told you should act, and you just go along with it. Or you just do whatever the fuck you want. But moral concerns, like, I don't know, that's my experience, like, as a person. Like, at no point have I felt like that there is, like, some moral system that's, like, deep inside me and I just gotta, like, parse it out, you know what I mean? It's more like I have a belief system that helps determine the way I act, but it's not, like, implicit or objective from any outside source.
Right.
And I don't even think, like, people who believe in that God makes a moral law, that I don't even know that they feel that way, because they always have to, like, fight their urges then still, right?
Right.
So it's still not objective morals. It's just like the guy who created the universe wants you to act a certain way. But is that, like, objective? I don't fucking know. What the fuck does objective even mean at that point? What are we talking about?
I don't know, I'm just reading about freedom and authenticity.
Yeah.
Okay, so to Sartre, freedom is making choices and the inability to avoid making choices.
Yeah. Like, whatever the quote
But isn't
was.
that like a loss of freedom where you have to make a decision?
Like, freedom, we are condemned to be free.
Right.
Well, because if you let something else make decisions
Well, wait,
for
shit,
you...
fuck. Because not making a decision is a decision. Debating...
If you let something else make a decision for you, it's acting inauthentically. If you
Right.
say, well, I'm a Christian, so the God's law is this, then you're handing over your authenticity to the
Right.
system that you ascribe to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
But,
that's the decision.
Right.
The decision isn't, should I fucking abort this baby or whatever, right? It's like, I'm going to let God decide whether or not aborting is okay.
Yeah, that's giving away your freedom.
Yeah.
But say the choice is to shoot this guy or shoot this guy. Well, I've got 3 decisions there, right? I've got the freedom to make 3 decisions.
Yeah,
Technically 4.
Hypothetically.
Technically I have the decision to make 4. I have the option to make 5 decisions.
Really?
5 decisions can be made in this instance.
Is one of them, like, 2 pistols, Jet Li back?
No, I'm saying, like... I guess, okay, there's 6 decisions. I can...
Oh, wait, 7 decisions.
No, I think it's max 6.
What about shitting your pants?
Fuck.
That's 7.
No, actually, I think there's like 10. I think there's 10 decisions here. Max. There's 10 decisions you can make max.
Yeah, what are they?
Okay, alright. So I can shoot this guy, right?
Yeah.
Or I can shoot this guy. I can shoot myself. I can shoot both of them. I can shoot both of them and then myself. I can shoot one and then myself. Or I can hand the gun over and he shoots me.
So, like, each permutation.
Yes. Or I can just walk away. It's a lot of decisions.
I know.
It's hard.
You remember how in one of the first videos, I think it might have been it was either Diogenes or Plato. Or
Oh, I thought you were going to be like one of the first videos on the channel.
No, one of the first.
Like, that's a long time ago.
One of the first philosophy videos we did, you were like, it's a little bit easier to, like, argue whether or not something is based or cringe when it has, like, a book.
Right.
Or, like, they have a body of work that still exists or whatever.
Right.
So, Existentialism is a Humanism. I mentioned it earlier, but it was based on a lecture that
Okay, maybe it's a little bit easier if the books are shorter.
Well, no, that's funny, but that's not my point. My point is that this is one of the foundational texts of existentialism, right?
Okay.
And one of his, like, foundational works, like, as an author, right?
Uh-huh.
And the work, once influential and popular starting point of discussion of existentialist thought, has been widely criticized by philosophers, including Sartre himself, who later rejected some of the views he expressed in it. So it's just funny. He, like, changed his mind later on. It's like, fuck it.
I mean, that's kind of the point, right?
I mean, that's fine, but it's just funny that it's like, well, in this book, Sartre believes this, and in this book, he believes this other thing. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm saying... My point was, it's easier to say whether a philosopher is...
Well, no,
based or
I still
cringe.
agree with you. I just wanted to make the connection to that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying, like, it's a little bit easier when I can, like, point out his exact beliefs in this book versus his exact beliefs in this next book, right?
Yeah. Let's do a...
The logical disconnect between his different
When are we going to
works.
do a dramatic reading of this entire book?
Oh, my God.
Translator's introduction.
If somebody, like, sends us...
Money.
A lot of money.
The translator's introduction is like 45 pages. It's 42
Was it
pages,
translated out of French?
I think.
Gross.
There's not too much text on these pages, though. It's not like tiny font or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, my copy of The Unique in Its Properties, like...
Fucking God, dude.
What?
That book. Well, first of all...
It's like yay tall,
It's
kind of
like-
about that thick.
It's like 350 pages. It's dense as fuck, and the font's tiny.
Yeah.
It is like, that's a fucking beast of a book.
Yeah.
Like, in my head, like, I'm like, all right, I read about 1 page a minute. It's probably triple that for that book.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get through it.
I have not read it in its entirety yet. Because it's dense.
It is. It's dense. Stirner's Critics is like, makes a lot of the same points in like 35 pages.
Didn't he write that from third person?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Lots of criticism of Sartre.
Really?
Yeah, I mean...
Tell me some.
Like, of existentialism and humanism.
Okay.
Neurobiologist Stephen Rose described a statement in which Sartre maintained that man, quote, will be what he makes of himself as, quote, windily rhetorical paean to the dignity of universalistic man, and, quote, more an exercise in political sloganeering than a sustainable philosophical position. He pointed to aging and disease as examples of factors that limit human freedom. Yeah, even Sartre was like, man, that shit sucked. It's kind of based, though.
Yeah.
He was only 41 when he wrote it. That's baby for philosophy. And atheistic existentialism.
I thought existentialism was inherently atheistic.
Well, you'd think so, but then you got Kierkegaard, or however you say his name.
I believe it's Kierkegaard. Soren Kierkegaard.
So, much of his philosophical work deals with the issues of how one lives as a single individual, giving priority to concrete human reality over abstract thinking and highlighting the importance of personal choice and commitment. And he's also has theological work, Christian ethics, the institution of the church, the differences between purely objective proofs of Christianity, and the infinite qualitative distinction between man and God. He was extremely critical of the practice of Christianity as a state religion, primarily that of the Church of Denmark. His psychological work explored the emotions and feelings of individuals when faced with life choices. So he's, a Christian existentialist.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the Google images for Sartre quotes.
No.
It's always interesting to see the images that they put the quotes on.
Yeah.
That's always my favorite thing to look at. Damn. He right though. Everything has been figured out except how to live. I feel that.
That reminds me of you know me. I've been known to watch a Joe Rogan podcast every once in a while.
Ah, yes, you're on the alt-right pipeline.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like
Well,
skateboarding,
technically,
like on the pipeline.
Shit.
Anyway,
Does that mean we're part of the alt-right pipeline?
because we
I
mentioned Joe Rogan and we don't
I think we're
immediately categorize him and put him in a negative box.
Yeah, we're like the conductors of the alt-right water slide, right?
Yeah.
We're like we point you at the direction of it, right?
Yeah, I guess.
We're one of the conductors of the alt-right pipeline.
Anyway, vote. Yeah, because we won't vote for Joe Biden.
Yes.
Anyway,
don't forget the Green Party is funded by the Republican Party.
Yeah. Forget that we want to vote for the Green Party, which is more left than the fucking Democratic Party. Far more. Not even close.
Right.
Anyway, all I was going to say is Eric Weinstein, he's Brett Weinstein's brother, but he's a financial manager and he has a PhD in mathematical physics. Anyway, there was a quote he made on one or two of the podcast because he talks about how his preeminent obsession, with his free time and his work and shit, is like humanity has discovered enough about the way the universe works, and we've tapped into enough power, nuclear energy and all this shit, that we can it's inevitable, on a long enough time frame, we will kill ourselves, right? We'll take ourselves out.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, the things we have access to go far beyond our capability to use them responsibly. So his quote is, "We are gods, but for the wisdom." It's that's kind of what that Sartre quote reminded me of. We figured out everything except how to live. We know how to fucking blow up the planet, but we don't know how to not. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I'm on the page for Being and Nothingness on Wikipedia. Many have praised the book's central notion that existence precedes essence, its introduction to the concept of bad faith, and its exploration of nothingness, as well as its novel contributions to the philosophy of sex. However, the book has been criticized for its abstruseness and for its treatment of Freud. Because of the subjectivism and psychologism associated with Sartre's view of consciousness, Being and Nothingness had come to be seen as outdated by the time of his death in 1980. It was written in 1943. So apparently this is another one that's kind of, by later on, it was a little bit, people were tossing it out.
Well, not every philosopher can be timeless.
No.
Not everybody can be Diogenes.
But I'm glad that Sartre is one of the first philosophers where it is really abstruse, whereas...
Is he our first philosopher that's not a Greek?
Yeah.
Damn. We really out here starting with these hard-ass philosophers to start out with, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of my point, is that there's lots of philosophy that comes out of existentialism, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
the existence of foundational shit, even if it comes to be outdated, it doesn't need to be. It shouldn't be the end point, right? I think any philosophical work or concept can be useful in context, right? It doesn't have to end.
Right.
You don't have to find existentialism and you're all right, this is my belief system now. You know what I mean? It's just that just has given me something to look at the world in a different way. That's interesting. And then you can go on to something else and you're oh, okay. With my knowledge of this book by Sartre and this book by this guy, I can, think about, it gives you more tools to observe, or to experience your own consciousness, or however you want to think about it, right?
The true 2020 philosopher picks and chooses beliefs from every different philosopher that he reads and forms his own philosophy from this patchwork quilt.
The true philosopher just writes his own fucking book. He doesn't say, I'm a Sartist, I'm a Platonist. He makes some shit up.
That's what I'm saying, though. Yeah.
That's the most base thing about Anne Ayn Rand, right? Is that she just said, all right, I have a new philosophy now, I just made this up. Even though it's bullshit, right?
Right.
I'll criticize it till the end of time. But that's the base way to do it.
Right.
Can't criticize her on that front.
Yeah.
So, anything else we want to say about Sartre?
I don't...
I think this is a good, introduction. I think more than any other so far, we kind of like scratched the surface, but also based on some of the quotes and stuff, this is like dense. You really gotta probably have to sit down with a fucking copy of the book and a fucking pencil and some Post-its and start fucking getting in, making notes and
Some
shit.
string.
Something string theory. Anyway, next time on Master Debaters. Oh wait. We gotta decide. We gotta make a judgment call, right? Is Sartre based or cringe, or where does he fall? We need like a spectrum. You know what we need? You know what'd be fucking hype? If we had like a chart, like a spectrum or whatever, and it was like based in cringe, and then we like pin guys.
Let's do it.
Or
Let's get some poster board.
That, or we start like ranking them.
Okay.
Like it start more or less cringe than Socrates or whatever. You know what I mean? But that with everybody, then we'll have an official like Unproducers fucking philosopher hierarchy. Sounds based. I don't know. We should think about it. If you have any suggestions, comment. Anyway, is Sartre based or cringe?
I think he's definitely more on the based side of the spectrum.
Yeah. There's lots of the central beliefs that we kind of went over towards the beginning. It's like, yes, I agree with these things. Like, just in my heart of hearts, like, these feel right?
Right.
But I can understand. It seems like most of the criticism comes from the way that they're argued. So maybe he's like, I feel this in my heart of hearts, and I got to write a 700-page book on it, and it's a little overwritten, maybe, you know. But the ideas are sound. So more based than cringe. We're leaning towards based. And yeah, we'll see you next time.